Happy Friday. So I went to the screening of Deadpool 2 last night at 8:30, and I gotta say that it was sold out 2 hours before the movie even started. So I took my movie pass down down there at 8:30 or at 6:30, and checked in. It was literally 3 seats left. So Deadpool 2 is going to do amazingly well. Amazingly well. So, but I have to say, right off the bat, how I enjoyed it. I think that everybody will agree with me that it didn't even come close to the first one. So I'm going to kind of go through kind of a list here. So as far as, and again, this is going to be spoiler free until halfway through the video, and then there'll be a big thing that says spoilers. So and you can skip directly to the spoilers. I'll have it down the bottom. So anything that I'm going to say from this point on up to that is purely things that you could see online or in the trailers or whatever else without spoilers. So as far as the story was concerned, there wasn't much of one. I think that the story here, like he had his origin story in the first one, it had a direction. Okay, so I thought that this one for Deadpool 2 was kind of flaky. It was kind of all over the place, and you could tell from the trailer that that Cable comes from the future, and he's hunting a kid, that Deadpool is trying to protect, and he's a mutant. And I won't go into the reasons stuff like that because obviously that's for the spoiler section. So I think the story was a little bit detrimental here because of the fact that it was kind of very, very fragmented. They were sticking a Deadpool storyline into that storyline, and then they fed other characters into it as well. So it kind of and I might as well just go right into like the jokes and stuff like that now. But I think that when they were writing this, it was just a whole bunch of guys sitting in a bar saying, "Oh no, that would be funny. No, that would be funny. Let's put that in there. Let's put that in there." And that's how the film kind of came off for me. Is just, oh, where can we stick that? Oh no, it'll fit right there, perfect. Oh yeah, it'll be fine. And that's why the film felt kind of disjointed to me. I thought that they tried that the movie was almost trying too hard to live up to the first one. So this one was directed, they had a different director for this one because the other director left because of creative differences with Ryan Reynolds. Because Ryan Reynolds was, really, holding on to this. It's his baby, okay, he pushed to make this thing, but, it's a whole collaborative effort, and sometimes egos get high, and it's going to be my way or the highway kind of thing, and finally the director just left. So they brought on David Leitch, who is a former stuntman. He did all the Buffy stuff. He did, the stunts for Wolverine, which is probably how he and Ryan Reynolds met when he was playing the Deadpool there, the Wade Wilson there, that the Merc with the mouth that had no mouth in Wolverine Origins. Yeah, that was definitely a weird twist that they did. But anyway, they make fun of that. Of course, there's so many references that he makes fun of throughout the film. He makes fun of the DCU. Of course, he always makes fun of Green Lantern, stuff like that. So, the references are all funny, but it's when he tries to be funny that's the problem for me, and that's where it feels forced. But Ryan Reynolds is basically playing himself, and I think a lot of the film is improv. I think it's improv. And it comes off that way. So, but David Leitch is a former stuntman who directed part of John Wick. So it was him and another guy that directed John Wick, who were both stuntmen. So these two directors who directed John Wick, one went off to direct John Wick 2, and David Leitch went off to do Atomic Blonde. So he directed Atomic Blonde, and now he's directing this. And you know, the tone of the films are different, completely different. Of course, because you have two different directors. But you know, it's very heavy-handed by Ryan Reynolds, that's for sure. So, and I think that because of the success of the first one, that Fox is basically just giving him carte blanche to kind of do whatever he wants. It does stay true to the characters. So now let's go into the actors and the characters and stuff like that. So the actors, the acting's very good. You know, there's nothing where I can say, you know, the cameos. Of course, they got a bunch of cameos, which I'll go into spoilers. But just so you know, of course, Stan Lee does not make any kind of cameo in this at all. I don't think he's in the first one either. So, but the acting's very good. Of course, you know, Josh Brolin, the girl they got to play Domino, Zazie Beetz, and so all the acting is very good. But now let's go into the characters. So there's some of the characters I cannot talk about until we talk about the spoilers. But the ones that, of course, you've seen the trailers, I'm going to go into a little bit of a rant here because of the fact that, you know, Ryan Reynolds wanted this to be as close to the comics as possible, right? Deadpool looks exactly like he does in the comics. So, and I appreciate that, you know, that everything can translate. Josh Brolin for Cable. For me, he doesn't embody Cable. His attitude does, but, you know, Cable is very imposing. So he's like the size of The Rock. Which they even make a joke in the film that Deadpool goes, oh, he's only 5'11", not like he is over 6 foot in the comics. So right off the bat, you know, he's already acknowledging the fact that they didn't even really try to get any close to the comics. So so though Josh Brolin did a fine job acting like the character, he never really came off as the character for me. So I think this is the thing. I think that the casual moviegoer for Deadpool 2 is going to like it a lot more than the comic readers and the comic fans. So, and it's because of that, you know, like with Colossus, you couldn't get a better Colossus. You know, he looks and sounds exactly like the comics. Deadpool exactly like the comics. Cable, okay, I guess they tried. You know, like the arm and stuff like that. Although, you'll have to tell me, because I noticed this, that Cable's eye only glows at night. I did not understand that. Because midway through the film, his eye was no longer glowing. So, let me know if you guys noticed that as well, because I was confused by that. You know, the CGI was very good throughout as well. Of course, it has to be because, you know, Colossus is completely computer generated. But let's go on to Domino, because if you've been watching my other videos, you know that I'm reading Domino, and that I had a problem with the casting for Domino. And you know, I don't want to come off sounding like a racist, because that's not what this is about. But they had to throw in, you know, the token African American woman of color, which is fine. You know, she was a good actress. She was fun to watch, but she's not Domino. She doesn't look anything like Domino. And you know, I'm going to put the pictures up here. So this is Domino, and this is what we got. You know, she looks closer to John Candy's character in Spaceballs than she does Domino. So it's a very easy fix here, because somebody did a rendition here. So here's the rendition of the actress, white. So I'm not saying Caucasian white, because Domino is not Caucasian. So I can't really be a racist, because the character is not Caucasian. She is white. She has all just the white color white. I don't know how else to explain it. So, and she has a black spot on her eye. She has a great look. And here's some of the other, cosplay and stuff like that. So she's just got a great look. So why change it? Why change it? So there was no reason to have Domino in this film. So if you could not do Domino like the comics, don't do it. They want to do something with the luck power. Great. Do somebody with the luck power. There's plenty of other characters that have luck power. Black Cat has luck power. And even Wanda has luck power to a certain extent. Where she changes fate. But why couldn't you just have another character? So you needed a token, African American in there? Great. She was great. She was perfect. Keep her in there. But why does she have to be Domino? She could have just been another character, just make up a new name. There's no reason. I mean, a very easy fix for the Domino thing, just make up a new character. Just make up a new name. She fit, like I said, she fit very well into it, but Domino is also a character that nobody else knows. So, if you're not a comic book fan, nobody's going to notice that you put her in there or not. But meanwhile, you're just pissing off comic book fans just for the hell of it. That's what it pretty much was. So I had a problem with that. I had a problem with some of the other characters that they brought in and how they were treated. So I don't know. That's I had a bad taste in my mouth from lots of parts of this film. So as far as the pacing and the sets and stuff to that effect, of course the music was great. When it was funny, it was really funny. When it worked, it really worked. And when it didn't, it really didn't. So the pacing, not very good. The pacing was on and off. Especially, it kind of dragged in the middle. Again, because you have these two storylines that are kind of doing this. And I understand what they were trying to do. And again, I'll talk more about that in the spoilers. The sets were great. They got into the mansion this time, and of course he had his apartment. We have the bar, all the regular stuff that they had over in the first Deadpool. But I really kind of want to get into spoilers. But if I was going to rate this overall, so if the original Deadpool was like an 8.5 for me. So it was extremely good. Mostly, I guess, because of the novelty of it. Even when it comes to the opening credits and stuff to that effect. Where this one, if that was an 8.5 for me, this was more of a 7. I walked out going, eh. And where I watched some of the other reviews and things, and all things on the internet, and everybody kind of loves it. I guess everybody's loving it a lot more than I am. Again, I felt that it was forced. I felt that the pacing was a little messed up. But it's fun to see Ryan Reynolds take the reins on this and basically be himself and just throw a Deadpool costume on. And I'm sure it's going to do very well and make another one, which is great. I just hope that if they do another one, that they stick a little bit more to the comics than they did with this one, or just make up new characters. That's my 2 cents on that. So let's go into spoilers right now. Okay, hang on. Spoilers for Deadpool 2. So let's go back into the story now. So there's, like I said, there's 2 intertwining stories. which I don't know if it worked. They were trying to give Deadpool an arc. Obviously, Cable knows quite a bit about Wade before he comes back in time, because he knew specifics about Miranda Baccarin's character, her death, Vanessa. So, so let's go into the story specifically. So we'll kind of track it. So the very beginning, he blows himself up. And then they go, well, let's tell you why I'm blowing myself up. And of course he blows up in 10 million pieces. But he can't die. As long as there's one piece of him up there, he always grows back. So he goes back in time to the fact of, not time-wise, but as far as storyline's concerned, to retell the story from the beginning, where he's got a great relationship with Vanessa, even though he's all burnt up and everything. She's accepted him, and he's basically an assassin, but he's killing bad guys. So he's going after mobsters and things to that effect, and he's just beating everybody up to a pulp and slicing pieces off, etc. And so one of the bad guys kind of walls himself up into a panic room. So he doesn't get to kill him. So he figures, okay, I'll come back for you later. Except the guy comes for him. You don't know how he found out who he was. You don't know how he tracked him. You don't know any of that. Just purely, he just kind of comes through the door. So he misses throwing the spatula or whatever else, and the bullet ends up hitting Vanessa and kills her. It was basically center mass. So he kills so he kind of he wants to die, but of course he can't die because he just, he blows himself up, and Colossus comes and basically puts him back together like Humpty Dumpty. So, so now Colossus is like, look, I'm sorry about what happened, but why don't you become an X-Man? So he tries, and that's where they're introduced to Russell, which is the fat kid with the fire thing. But I guess there's a rehabilitation for mutants but these people aren't really rehabilitating them, they're torturing these kids. So the kid just wants to get locked up. He wants to get away from the place, and that's what happens. They take him and Wade and basically they put him into the prison, this mutant prison with collars that takes away their powers. I still have no idea how that works. They use this take away powers thing all the time, and how could a piece of technology turn off your genes? I have no clue. But they use it as a plot point in almost all these X-Men films, etc. Don't know how it works. So anyway, she's got the collar on, which means he can die. So he's slowly dying of the cancer that is now back because his powers are turned off. And he's very happy about the fact that he's going to die. So, but unfortunately, every time he tries to die, he sees Vanessa in this heavenly world kind of thing, which is basically their apartment, and he can't get through this wall, this impenetrable, transparent wall. So she tells him, it's not time yet, blah, blah, blah. So he goes through this whole thing where now Cable has come from the future because his family was killed by the boy. So he figures if he kills the boy as a boy instead of before he becomes a man, then, Terminator style, then his family will be alive. Of course, if we go into the really specifics of it, he said that his daughter's name was Hope, which is Hope Summers, because Cable is actually, I think, the grandson of Madeline Pryor and Cyclops. So anyway, and Madeline Pryor is the clone of Jean Grey, just FYI. So she has red hair and stuff like that, just like Jean. But anyway, she was in the comics. Hope was not his daughter. She was the first mutant born after House of M. So if you don't know anything about that, just look that up. But she was not Cable's daughter. She was adopted. So anyway, he comes back in time to now, deal out this justice as far as he's concerned and save his own future. But he only has one chance to go home as far as the device he has. So anyway, we go into all of this plot lines back and forth between Cable and this, and now he hires X-Force, which Deadpool was part of X-Force. And I think that was originally drawn by Rob Liefeld, of which they make fun of. That's where they make fun of the feet. So the guy can't draw feet, and as far as I can, he can't draw hands either. Rob Liefeld is not a good artist, but back in the '90s, he was drawing books that was selling very well. So, but everybody makes fun of Rob Liefeld as far as his art's concerned. But he made Cable very, very famous, along with X-Force, with Shatterstar and all those other guys. So here now goes into my problem. How they handled X-Force like a joke. And this is where it all just feels very forced. So they get off the plane, and of course all of X-Force dies, including this guy named Peter, which they just kind of threw on. And they had some really good actors in X-Force, but the only one that lives is Domino. And because of her luck powers. Which I know that I realized that with that storyline you needed those luck powers, and that's great. Again, they could have just called her something else. But anyway, so the treatment of Shatterstar, first of all, his thing looked god awful. God awful, his faceplate. And then they killed him off like that. Why are they treating characters so poorly? And actors, for that matter. So you had the guy that played Pennywise in It, Bill Skarsgård, who was also in Atomic Blonde, which is probably why he got the little part that he did. But I was very upset about how they handled that. Also at the end, if you notice, for comic book fans, that once he got inflamed or burned, however you want to say it, his costume changed to gray and black, which is his X-Force costume, just FYI. That's where that came from. So anyway, as far as the story, I don't know if those two stories really gelled. I don't know how Cable knew all this stuff about Wade. Because he said Wade was dead in the future. So, I don't know. Anyway, that's one of my other problems, was how they treated the characters from X-Force. It was a big joke. Now, as far as the actions are concerned, the action was all great. But you're being directed by a stuntman. So, how bad could it be? I enjoyed it while I was sitting there, but I also got bored kind of in the middle. And, also when he died 3 times, I'm like, come on. Come on. Let's just move on. I mean, it was like beating a dead horse over and over and over again. I'm like, are you finally going to die or what? And then he finally did die, and he was talking to Vanessa, who, again, sent him back, saying that they needed him. But what they did do well was Juggernaut. That was the first time that they did, I know Vinnie Jones played him back in one of the X-Men movies, but this was the first time they did Juggernaut really well. And they kept foreshadowing where who he was talking to and who he was giving the food to. I don't know if that room would have secured the Juggernaut, especially with his helmet still on. I don't know why they didn't take the helmet off if he was in prison. But I did like that Deadpool did try to get the thing off of him. And CGI fight. I thought that was great. I like the thing in the beginning with Wolverine with the little toy. Thought that was great. The whole fight, with the transport, that was great. There was some really, really good stuff in it. I think it just needed a better edit, maybe. And I think it was tough because so much of the stuff was improv that they couldn't really cut it without. And then, of course, Ryan Reynolds was probably had final cut or approval, or at least in there in some degree. So they couldn't cut stuff without approving it through him. And I think he just said, "Oh, that's funny, let's leave it in, let's leave it in." And I think that's where the pacing suffered. I think it could have been a lot better. So that's my opinion. And you know, the whole X-Force thing, not that great. But again, that's why I think that the comic readers will not like it as much as just a traditional audience. I think that's why it's getting better reviews than I am going to give it. Or I have given it. The cameos. So if you didn't catch some of the cameos, Matt Damon and Alan Tudyk were both in the movie. They were the ones that Cable stole the truck from. So if you didn't recognize them with the big beards and stuff like that, talk about beer, that was them. Also, if you blinked, you miss it, but Brad Pitt played the Vanisher, where you actually saw his face for a few seconds. So those were a couple of the cameos there. And then I love the fact that, you know, Deadpool says, why are you guys the only people inside, you know, the mansion? Meaning Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead. Why are you guys the only guys over here? And as he's walking around the mansion, in I think it's either a classroom or Professor X's office, Beast closes the door and they're all in the room. All of them are in one room. I thought that was really great. You know, so the cameos, if you blinked, you would have missed every single one of them because they're so quick. I mean, they were literally in one shot each kind of thing. Talking about Negasonic Teenage Warhead and her girlfriend Yukio, that was one of my other criticisms. They're great characters, absolutely great characters. I love how Yukio went, "Hi Wade," every single time. They're absolutely great characters and completely underutilized for this film to bring on this X-Force thing. You know, the costume was great for her this time. The fight scene between them and where Yukio came up with the chain, so quick with Juggernaut. Anyway, I wish that they had utilized that character and at least those two characters more. Colossus, you know, he was in and out, but you know, they totally didn't use her at all, and that character is great. But anyway, that's my opinion of Deadpool 2. And do I suggest seeing it? Absolutely, absolutely. It's a fun time. Definitely see it in the theater. You know, with everybody laughing. I was in a full theater, and I think it's going to do really well. And I think there will be a Deadpool 3. But I just hope that they stick to the comics a little bit more if they're going to bring in additional characters. All right. Have a great weekend, and subscribe to the channel, and definitely check out my Death of Thor video that just got posted today as well. All right. Talk to you soon.